Department of State Services (DSS) and the Nigerian Police Force in Abuja have arrested no fewer than 20 suspects for hacking the 2025 computer-based test examinations conducted by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (Jamb). Security sources disclosed that the suspects have confessed to sabotaging the computer-based test system in order to discredit Jamb and discourage students from using CBT for future WAEC and NECO examinations. According to one of the sources, the suspect admitted that the syndicate used specially designed attacking software to remotely infiltrate and manipulate Jamb servers at targeted CBT centers. The source explained that the software was reportedly installed on routers covertly placed within the vicinity of these centers to override Jamb's secure platform. Reacting to this, Imo State Governor and Chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum, Hope Uzodinma, has called on the Nigerian Police Force and the Department of State Service to intensify on investigation of suspected hackers of the Joint Administration and Monitoring Board's website. Reacting to the arrest in a statement issued on his behalf by the State Commissioner for Information, Public Orientation and Strategy, Honorable Declan Emelumba, Uzodinma described the arrest as timely. According to him, the arrest was not only necessary to establish the root cause of the problem, but also to douse the tension that arose in the nation because of the crisis. This is a developing story of that, and this actually happened yesterday. I'm sure you followed the registrar Olokoyede Isaac Olokoyede. Ishak
Oloyede.
Is it Ishak or Ishak?
Ishak Oloyede, the Jamb registrar.
Yes, the Jamb registrar. Ishak that I was trying to, make sure I pronounce it rightly, because I should, get it right. Thank you. When he made that conference on May 12th, I'm sorry, and then he wept on national TV profusely, uncontrollably. If you had seen it, some people say it's a touching situation. Some would say he should resign. There were so many statements
about that. Those who think he should resign.
And then he said, we accept that there's been technical glitches over the about
the five southeastern states and Lagos.
Yeah, there were 1.9 million candidates that registered, and then about 400 had less than I think about 500 of them, 300,000 of them, had below 400. About, I think they had like
200.
below 200.
Mark is 400.
Yes, the highest score is 200. So 300,000 had below 200. There's so much. Some parents on social media talking over it. Some students carrying it. There was another student that committed suicide in Lagos over that incident. Well, according to the story, they said she got admission 30 minutes after the suicide act, which we're not aware of how that happened. Although her family members came to speak up and say justice should be served, that situation it's still pending on the corner. But this new developing story over this hackers, some people will listen to this and want to laugh over it and say,
hope it's not a distraction.
Yes, hope it's not a distraction over that. I don't know. I want to get your thoughts on this, or what you make of this.
I'm actually thinking just what you said. Hope it is not a distraction, because the Jamb issue is a thorny one that needs to be dealt with holistically. It's not something at this point. We don't need any distraction. If hackers have been arrested, it's possible there would have been hackers, but how much of their hacking effort contributed to what has happened? It may be that they committed a crime, but look at that guy now. Let me give this analogy. Look at that guy who who lost XYZ amount, maybe armed robbers, attacked him, and in the process of armed robbery, he lost a certain amount of money. Let's say 500,000, and he became, is that 500,000 lost? Is that the reason why he has been poor all his life? Or is that an excuse to justify his poverty now? Would you say, oh, I am poor? Don't you know that I'm poor because I was robbed of 500,000? Was he robbed? Yes. Is that the reason why he has been poor all his life? We have to dip further to know if that is the reason he has been poor all his life, or he's just riding on that incident to excuse maybe all the other mismanagement he has had. It's possible he has mismanaged all his resources all through his life. Maybe he has been a chronic gambler, maybe he has been into alcoholic, and maybe he has really not worked hard, but this 500,000, so if that 500,000 was not stolen, would he have been any richer? That's what I'm trying to say in the case of this Jamb and these hackers. It's possible they are truly hackers that were arrested. They might have done, but are they the reason why we had just such level of failure in Jamb? Recall that initially when this outcry came out, the first thing Jamb did was to come out and blame the students. And unfortunately, we live in a society where, earlier on I talked about those that have been victim of the Nigerian society. The youth in Nigeria has also been victim of Nigerian society. Of course, there have been many ills in the Nigerian society, especially around the youth, the Yahoo thing and all that. But you see, some of those things didn't happen out of the blues. They happened because of the way the Nigerian society has been programmed. The youth and the young people has largely been left unattended to, with society making no tangible plan for them. So some of this, in attempt, as terrible as it is, in an attempt to resort to self-help, they got into this crime. That was exactly, when the issue came out. The first thing Jamb did was to blame the student, and some other people joined the bandwagon and blamed this. Say, oh, it is because they're always on phone. It is because they're always this. It's true. There's a whole lot of distraction for the young person. Now, true, the standard of education has fallen, but eventually it was proven that beyond all these issues, all these challenges confronting the Nigerian student, there was another challenge from Jamb that led to this mass failure. So it wasn't just the issues of spending all the time on the internet. It wasn't just the issues of, the Jamb guy even said, oh, most of them would rather do exam malpractice. And some people say, oh, because they have tried to tighten their nook against exam malpractice. So that means all the success of yesteryears was nothing but exam malpractice, is result of exam malpractice, which, if it is true, Jamb shouldn't even be exonerated because they conduct their exam, they appoint their supervisors. Much as we credit if they have tightened their look, but of course it was finally proved that beyond all those things, there was an issue with Jamb itself, the so-called technical glitch and the tears we saw on television, which unfortunately for many has become a talking point and an excuse that, oh, since he shed tears, let's forgive and forget. For me, that so arresting these guys, fine, they should be further investigated and prosecuted, but that shouldn't be an excuse to take our eyes off the ball. Jamb should come out clean to prove to us that it has done what it should do, not just about this exam that has been rewritten, but to ensure that in the future we don't have this type of stories again. We don't have a child taking her life because of an exam she probably would have passed if not for the so-called technical glitch. And most importantly, Jamb should restructure the way it organizes exam. This issue of making students leave the house as early as 6:30 a.m. is very, very uncomfortable.
Okay, I wanted to point out something. You said that for future years, it shouldn't just be after the Jamb has decided to make most of the candidates rewrite the exam. I don't know if you're aware that they want to also engage the use of CBT for WAEC and NECO. So if Jamb is still trying to grapple with that area where we're trying to get it right with Jamb, what's the possibility that WAEC and NECO, all of this holistically is not going to, face the already pending situation?
It's a good question you have asked, but the fact that Jamb failed doesn't mean, or we can't even say conclusively say Jamb has failed. But for the fact that so far Jamb has not gotten it completely right, that does not follow that WAEC could also fail, nor NECO will fail. But the question to ask is this, which is also a challenge that one would have asked for Jamb, in introducing these CBTs, how many of our schools have the requisite equipment to train, to prepare their students? The nature of WAEC, you write it in schools. Each school, how many of these schools would have enough computers for students to use? Like I said before, I don't know if you have ever gone to any of our secondary schools around, whether they be public or private schools, and see their computer labs. How many computers do they have there? What is the plan to ensure that there is adequate provision for this system? A school that will be enrolling, let's say, 300 pupils or even 100 pupils for WAEC, what is the plan to ensure that they have enough computer for that exam? Is WAEC acting unilaterally, or is it talking to the Ministry of Education at the state levels and at the federal level to ensure that provisions are made? Or is WAEC going to provide those equipment needed? Or are we going to have a sequestered exam, that is the exam staggered, that some people are writing, other people will have to wait? Because there are much as you have some exam that does not involve everybody. For example, if you're writing chemistry in a school that you have maybe 100 students, maybe like 20-30 of them will be writing chemistry. So in that case, but there are some subjects like English, maths, biology, civic education that everybody is expected to write at the same time. Do you have enough equipment for that? So much as it won't be a bad idea to have a CBT exam, but it's not something that should be rushed into. First, the students, are they adequately prepared for this kind of exams? Are they a child that have not seen computer in his life? How do you want to introduce him to writing a CBT for such an important exam? So what do we have on ground in the school? These are the things that WAEC, the Ministry and Commissioners of Education should consider before going ahead of it. If they can answer these questions, maybe they can go ahead.
All right.